Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wait For It podcast, I should say, in our latest live stream. And of course, today, as you can see in the title, we will be reviewing Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So, Eric, it is good to see you and excited to do another one of these live streams. You know, as we do more and more of them, we're getting more comfortable. And, the feedback's been really good, too. So I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, when the participation's there, it's also a lot of fun to do. But even without that, I mean, it's been really nice to kind of get a visual to the podcast, which is doing so well. And this month in particular, I'm glad we got a review out here on YouTube because we've got a ton of reviews that are hitting the month of October. So make sure to hit up our Instagram. Phil will tell you all about that at the end of our episode where you can find us. But on our social media, you can find out all the other reviews we got going on. This being our live stream for the month, I'm pretty excited, and this was a movie we were looking forward to.
Well, I mean, you more so than me, since I didn't see the first one. I guess I'll get that out of the way right away. But I know, Eric, you have such an affinity for this character, for Venom specifically. I know he's one of your favorite, comic book characters of all time. So I'm very interested to see what you had to think about this film, and then also find out, where we differ. But for those of you that are brand new, welcome to the Wait For It podcast. As we mentioned, this is our live stream. We don't do these as much. We try to do one at least once a month, but primarily we are on all your podcast directories, and we do a whole bunch of different topics. But Eric, for anybody that's joining us that is brand new, let them know how our movie reviews work.
So we keep a pretty simple format here. We're going to go ahead and jump straight into likes. We're going to keep it positive to start. Then we're going to get into dislikes. Once we're done with those 2 points, we're going to go into our overall thoughts before finally giving a grade. And of course, because we have to give some type of score to the movie, that's going to be anywhere from 0 to 10. So we will see how this goes because I think me and Phil, we're going to land pretty close. But this is one of those reviews I'm pretty sure we won't land on the same score. So let's see if I'm right about that. Prediction time.
I didn't know we could go as low as 0. I thought it was 1 to 10.
I mean, we've never watched a 0 before, so I mean, there's always a possibility.
What was closest? Maybe Godzilla King of the Monsters.
You just anytime you could find time to shit on Godzilla, you do it, and I really applaud you for that.
I really, really do. It's a skill, to be honest with you, but
it is.
Yeah, as we mentioned, this is of course the sequel to the 2018 Venom film. I'll give you guys a little bit of a synopsis here. Eddie Brock is struggling to adjust to his new life as the host of the alien symbiote Venom, which grants him superhuman abilities in order to be lethal vigilante. Brock attempts to reignite his career by interviewing serial killer Cletus Cassidy, who becomes the host of the symbiote Carnage and escapes prison after a failed execution. So this review will be spoiler free, so we won't be getting into anything specifically that happened into the movie. But as Eric mentioned, we will be talking about our likes and dislikes. So let's go ahead and get into it here, Eric. Now, for me, as far as the the positives, I do really want to point out and emphasize, Venom and Carnage, as far as the designs, you have to get those correct, of course, in this instance. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't see the first film, but I did really enjoy, some of the CGI in that. At some points it was a little bit off, but I thought they did a really good job. But I loved the designs of Venom and specifically Carnage, since that's the first time we've seen him. And like his breakout scene where we finally get to see him, the reveal, I guess I should say, was really, really cool. And I enjoyed that part.
Yeah, and I might have missed it if you said it, but for context, because I was pulling up the cast. For context, you did see the movie just like a very condensed, 10 YouTube clips worth, which really, yep. And I think that's, we're not going to get ahead to dislikes, but talking about the first one of my problems with the first one was you kind of can watch it in clips. Like there are moments that are awesome. And then there's a ton of the film, even though it was only an hour and a half, the first one was a little bit longer than this one, which ran at about 90 minutes. There is a lot of stuff that could be cut out that wasn't worth watching. This movie, I can at least say it kept the same theme of the first one. So if you like the first one, a lot of the things here with Eddie Brock and Venom are still present. And Tom Hardy is just a star. Just love him. He can make everything work. I really, really like him.
Yeah, I enjoy. I mean, Tom Hardy is honestly great in everything. Of course, he's pulling double time here as not only himself, but I mean, not only playing Eddie Brock, but also the Venom voice. I did learn something cool kind of throughout the day while I was prepping for this, is that he had already pre-recorded the Venom lines, and while he is arguing with Venom, he's actually playing it in a through an earpiece in his ear. So again, not really surprising from a guy that's as good as Tom Hardy and as professional and well renowned as him. So really, really cool that of course he went so far into making sure that those scenes with the inner dialogue with Venom sounded pretty good, which is obviously very important because it happens a lot. Andy Serkis is directing here, of course, with Gollum, Planet of the Apes, all that kind of stuff. So he is obviously kind of, I feel like, a guy you would definitely want in charge of something like this, where there's going to be a character that you don't necessarily see when you're actually filming. He's probably the guy that you'd want to lean on. So as far as that, yeah, Woody Harrelson, I also thought was very, very good. One thing I know that a lot of people didn't really enjoy from the first film, Eric, was kind of like the stand-in wannabe Oscorp villain. Was that improved upon in this time around, in your opinion?
Yes, in the sense that we got Carnage. So, I mean, Carnage is obviously a fan favorite. I mean, everybody loves Carnage. Everybody loves that character. We'll talk about Woody Harrelson and my thoughts on the performance in the next segment. But what I would say is the action was there. I mean, it was cool. Even in the first one with Riot, I mean, it was pretty cool and pretty awesome to see the symbiote like really just get into each other and go at each other. I like that. I don't know how many more times you can do this, but for a second run, I thought it was really, really well. The red and the black looked really cool in really different scenes, so it really stood out, unlike Riot, which is where it kind of improved upon. That visual was really improved upon. I don't know. The movie overall, I think, did a really good job with the action for it only being 90 minutes, but it did leave me wanting a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more, I think, is a theme we'll get into here in just a moment. By the way, if there is anybody watching as well, you can also leave comments if you have any questions about the film. Of course, keeping it spoiler free, we will definitely discuss those and display them up here on the video as well. Eric, I mean, I'm going to kind of lean on you for this one. I mean, was there anything else that you really enjoyed? Because I think you kind of got a feeling of how I felt, leaving the theater the other day.
So I'll throw this in there because everybody's talking about the after credit scene. It should be the mid credit scene. And of course, we're not going to be spoiling it, but it's a big one. It is one worth going out of your way to watch. And if you don't watch this movie, or you haven't watched Venom and you're not planning on watching the second one, go out of your way to find, when you can, whether that's through Twitter, maybe you don't want to see some, shitty version on a phone that was recorded. You want to wait till it comes out. Even if it's a year from now, check out that, that after credit. Although, maybe not.
Sooner rather than later.
Sooner rather than later, yeah. As I said that, I was like, no, you're probably going to know sooner. So definitely check it out. It was worth it. Phil, I mean, let me just, while we are on likes, because I know I think you did like that part. I mean, were you, one, surprised by the mid-credit, tease? And are you excited? Like, does that excite you in any way without giving any spoilers?
Yes, definitely excited. It didn't surprise me because it was kind of like, I think it was Tom Hardy and Andy Serkis were talking about, their disappointment that it had leaked, and which I'm sure is really just heartbreaking, especially for a project like this. You work so hard and you're obviously excited about the future of the franchise, and for something like that to be leaked, I'm sure it sucks. So I was kind of expecting it and had an idea of what it was going to be, but yeah, certainly excited. And, yeah, that's really all I can say. Yes, because I, again, don't want to spoil it because it's a big one for sure.
I will also say I liked Michelle Williams as Anne. There are some issues there that I have, but with her inclusion in the film. But I liked her performance, just like I did in the first one. She plays the same exact character, the same exact way. There are beats from the first one that are still present here. So to be honest, while I know Likes is about to be really short, and I feel like both me and Phil are about to go heavy into dislikes, I want to make it very clear, if you enjoyed the first one, you're probably going to enjoy this one. So with that being said, Phil, let's segue to dislikes, because that's where I think most of the conversation is going to take place. And it's interesting to hear you, because some of these complaints are going to have, I wouldn't be surprised if they were the same ones I had from the first one. So you take the floor. By all means, go first.
All right, let's go ahead and just remove Eric here for a moment. So again, I didn't see the first film, so I just saw bits and pieces of it. And when I bring Eric back in here in just a moment, I do want to, ask if this was the case, because I'm seeing it a lot where this essentially, as far as the side plots going on, it did seem like it was the same film. Here's one thing that definitely, and I don't know if Eric ever picked up on it while we were in the theater. I didn't find myself really laughing at any of the humor at any point. It all just seems so forced, and they were just trying to shoehorn it in. And it's like, oh, I'm quirky. This character is quirky. Oh, look at Venom and Eddie Brock do all this. And I was just like, God, I cannot be less entertained right now. I did not think it was possible. I didn't think it was very, very funny. The humor didn't hit for me whatsoever, Eric. I hated it.
Okay, well, that's not a good start. So you wouldn't have liked the first one going through it all the way. And again, you kind of get vibes of that from what you got to see. If you enjoyed the humor in the first one, they kind of continue to do that. This movie is aware, not aware because it should be, but they're aware of what they're trying to go for, which is like this buddy love story between Venom and Eddie Brock. And it's like in any relationship, they get into fights and they banter. And that's what you get with these two characters that Tom Hardy plays. It's not the best. I would personally not have gone this route, but this is the route that they've decided to go. I enjoy it to a point. I think the bigger issue, Phil, here is none of these other characters are entertaining or are funny. So, like, it's just Tom Hardy. So, like, if you don't like Tom Hardy and the humor that he brings with Eddie Brock and Venom in their relationship, there's not a lot of other substance in this movie. And you telling me that you liked Woody Harrelson's portrayal was shocking, because I hated it. I did not enjoy it. I tried to be open-minded. I knew he was going to be hamming it up. I knew he was. Too much ham. Too much ham. Way too much. We're talking like full Thanksgiving ham. Like, that's what we got. Like, it was too much.
He has a line about ham. It's funny that you say that. He has a line about ham.
I forgot that quickly, because like his performance was very forgettable. And honestly, it brought down my enjoyment of Carnage. Because Carnage, again, they did do one thing with Carnage I didn't quite like, as far as his relationship with Venom and how he viewed that relationship. You probably know what I'm talking about, is what he referred him to. I didn't quite think that was necessary. And then the relationship between, Cletus Cassidy and Carnage was also odd. Like that was odd how they portrayed that on film. They also, Phil, and I feel like I'm about to rant into dislikes, introduced a character called Shriek, which was Frances Barrison, who was played by Naomi Harris, who you may know from the Pirates of the Caribbean film, which literally was the main question walking out of the theaters. We were all like, is that who that is? I did not like...
Still, we were like, that's who that is. If you don't want it, give it back. It literally was like, he literally was like, do you have anything left over from like the makeup department from that character? And
I swear it must have been the same markings and everything. Yeah. She, I didn't like her inclusion. At first, I was open to it at the beginning of the film. And as the film went on, I realized, oh, she's a plot device and also not interesting. So I think the big issue, Phil, moral of the story, to add to the dislikes I threw in there and to go back to your original point, there's not a lot of humor or enjoyability in this movie if you don't like Tom Hardy's Venom and Eddie Brock. So that's kind of the biggest thing. So you don't like the main part of the movie. Was there anything else you didn't like?
Well, we'll get to that here in just a moment. I do want to bring up a question here from friend of the show, Kire, who asked me, Phil, do you think you'll go watch the first movie now that you've seen the second? Absolutely not. No. I mean, I've seen those clips, as like Eric sent me, and then he literally just said, this is really all you need to watch. I'm pretty mad I saw the second one, so I'm not going to see. I'm definitely not going back to see the first.
And this is around the time our IG clip will probably end too. That's an awesome way to end it because seriously, like, there's no way he's going to probably watch any previous or future Venom films. Because again, if you don't like Tom Hardy specifically and his iteration of Eddie Brock and Venom and their humor and their relationship and the banter, like that's what this movie has going for it. That's its selling point. Again, I wouldn't have chosen to go this route. Venom, personally, as an anti-hero with his own franchise, doesn't quite make sense to me. He can be an anti-hero, but he's better off as a villain, in my opinion. And if he's going to be an anti-hero, he should be one that's like a supporting character. Maybe gets some shine every once in a while. Maybe a film to get some shine against Carnage, right? But not the first film against Riot in this weird, again, fake Oscorp company. And then the second film that they just, again, kind of barreled their way through. It was really, really odd. And the story choices, I don't know that there's enough substance for future films, but obviously this franchise continues to make them money, so they're going to keep doing it. We won't get a good Venom movie most likely until they make it rated R.
Exactly. That is exactly what I was going to say. They need to just like dive into the brutality of this character. And again, like it's such an iconic villain, anti-hero. He has the ability to do it all. And I do think Tom Hardy is a good choice for that role, but like there's just their refusal to go all in on it. Like, even though we've had a Deadpool and a Wolverine be successful, and now you have shows like Invincible and The Boys and all these gory, violent, heavy superhero TV shows and films that are rising to popularity. Why wouldn't you do it with one of the most violent characters in your rogues gallery? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And also, here's the other thing I didn't like, Eric. Why is the movie 90 minutes? Just add another 30 minutes to the movie and tell an interesting damn story and give these characters something to do. There's a whole block in there of where Venom goes to like a rave, and I'm just like, what the hell am I watching? What am I watching?
Okay.
What is happening here?
He does go to a rave. I also would not have endorsed that that choice. Again, I feel like you're taking it out on me. I didn't make the movie, but here's what I'll tell you.
Someone owes me 250 Cinemark points because I redeemed it for a ticket to this film.
That seems more of a personal issue. But what I'll tell you, you talk to Cinemark about that. I don't think it's going to go well, but I'll tell you this. With Venom, again, there's not a lot of substance to the story because there's not a lot of substance to that character. This is gonna be more of my final thoughts. So I don't want to give that away. But Venom being who he is, there's not much there that you can really go into. The Carnage thing was kind of the last play. So the fact that they went that route so early into the second film tells you a lot. I think they're trying to force feed us this character and the stardom of Tom Hardy as an actor to really sell us on why this should be a franchise. But Phil, again, to my earlier point, I don't know that there is any substance. So adding another 30 minutes would have just pissed you off more, because instead of going to a rave, who knows where Venom would have ended up? Who knows? So it could have been much, much worse. That's why one of the good things I enjoyed, and maybe I should have said this in likes, was I did enjoy the runtime. I enjoyed that it was a quick, we got it in and out of the theater. I mean, it felt quick. Did it not? Or did you still feel it felt long?
No, I felt it dragged because I was not enjoying myself.
I at least enjoyed myself a little bit. So, okay.
Yeah, no, I definitely I guess because up to that point, again, it was just like, God, what the hell are we doing here? Detective Mulligan is like this. Is he from the East Coast, but he's in San Francisco? I can't figure out his accent. I don't know what the hell's going on. Is he in the first movie?
No, he's not.
Okay.
No. In fact, the only real returning characters from the first movie that you really even need to care about, obviously,
Dan,
other than
right?
the clerk, Miss Chow, I think.
Oh yeah, Miss Chen.
Yeah, I don't like the whole thing with Ann and Dan going into a second film. So again, I know you didn't watch the first one, but those of you that were fans of the first one, that continues in. That's what I didn't like. Like, I like Anne and Michelle Williams' portrayal of the character, but there's not substance there. She's just kind of entertaining. And I feel like, Phil, I've kind of made myself enjoy it more than I should have. So I can totally see where you're coming from. Completely valid. I'm excited to see what the future for Venom holds. I would like to, and probably already have, honestly, now that I think about it, even though we're reviewing the film, I forgot about most of the first movie before I saw the second, and I've already forgotten about most of the second. So, is there anything else you would like to attack this movie for before we give our score? And again, I just want to reiterate, if you enjoyed the first one, you're totally fine to do that. You're going to enjoy the second one. So our thoughts are invalid in that sense.
No, those are the primary things. It's just we've seen films across the board, even in DC films that aren't necessarily supposed to be funny, do humor pretty well. And if you're gonna go quippy, if you're gonna go with this type of humor, like you better nail it. Otherwise, you'll just end up rolling your eyes a lot. I mean, I'm obviously in the minority here because to give you guys a little preview, I mean, it's 59% as far as on Rotten Tomatoes, but that is for critics. As far as the audience score, it's 85%. So audiences are enjoying it. Again, Eric, probably a lot of those people.
The guy next to us was having a fucking blast.
Oh, yeah,
he just would not shut the hell up the entire movie. I was livid.
Oh, okay.
He was so happy. So he found it so hilarious.
Like he had never seen a superhero movie before. But you know what? That guy enjoyed it. I'm glad he enjoyed it. I was not as enjoy. The best thing about that is I got to see that awesome new movie theater over by you because it's beautiful. And then I went and did the same thing this morning and kind of redeemed myself as I had watched Shang-Chi again with my daughter. So that's my third time. But let's get to another question here, Eric, before we wrap up here from Falin. So for someone who refuses to watch either film, what should we know about these films just in case it gets incorporated in future films?
that is
well, I don't think we can answer that question without spoiling something major, the spoiler about
I will tell you that, yeah, without getting into what it is, you will need to pay attention to Venom.
All right, hold on, I'm just gonna give people a moment to leave leave here for a moment. If you're watching this in the future, just leave for like 30 seconds. And we'll just say, watch it before December. The end credit scene. How about that?
How about that? So
this part won't be in Instagram, so that works out.
Yeah. I will say this. The only thing you really need to know, and your refusal to watch it, totally understandable. I'm shocked. Absolutely shocked Phil said he'd watch this with me. I knew he hadn't seen the first one. Absolutely shocked, because I was going to go see it. I think the only thing you need to really look at is Venom looks cool as fuck. Tom Hardy is good, at least in my eyes, for the role. I don't really like the direction they've gone with the character, but again, I feel like it'll be really good as a side character in another film, and I think that will really play to their strengths. But they're basically just like a married couple in the same body who's they just go through shit. So that's their relationship. That's really all you need to know. There's no other substance. There's no other things that you really need to know unless they incorporate those subplots where he's trying to win his ex-girlfriend back from this very boring dude named Dan. That's pretty much it.
Does way too much in the final act.
I'm surprised he survived the first movie. So to see him in the second one was shocking. There's not a lot there for Lynn, honestly, to really eat at. So I would recommend personally what I told Phil to do. If you do find yourself in a situation where you want to go backwards and figure out more, or you want to be prepared for whatever might come, I would just watch some clips on YouTube. Go to Movie Clips. They got 10 clips. The whole first film, you can get caught up immediately. Phil, did you feel watching, and before we do our final thoughts, did you feel going into the second one, after watching those clips, that you missed anything?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. Everything they referenced in the second film was in those clips that you sent me. And I came away from like watching those clips. I texted you. I was like, oh, this isn't bad. Maybe I should have watched the first one. I just didn't have time this week. I made it a goal, but between everything else I've been watching and also, managing, of course, the other shows. And also I started Squid Game. So between that, I just have not, and Ted Lasso, I haven't had time to watch the Venom. So I'm glad Eric sent me those clips because after I came out of it, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Maybe the second one will be better than I think it is. And then, here we are now.
Well, I think that's a good segue, getting close to the half-hour mark, for us to go ahead and go into our final thoughts and grades. So, Phil, I will let you go first because I'm very curious to hear how low your grade is, and then I want to just mentally prepare for the difference in our grade, or maybe not. Again, these reviews, you guys don't understand. We are shocked sometimes. The reviews where we think we're far off are like right on the money, and then the reviews where we think we're in sync, we're just not. So Loki being a good example of that.
Eric's word, I'll give it a 0 because I just asked him if we could go as low as a 0. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. So yeah, here are my final thoughts, as far as Venom. As I mentioned, I skipped the first one because I wasn't really interested in seeing a Marvel film that wasn't in the primary MCU, which I get it. Like, that's a little snobby of me, but as I just mentioned, I only have so much time and so much room in my brain for so many fandoms. So, Eric sent me some clips to get the gist of the first film. And as I said, it seemed relatively interesting. And maybe I thought maybe I would enjoy the sequel. And I just did not. The jokes fall flat. The pacing is worse than me running a mile in high school, just awful. And I didn't care about any of the characters. Venom and Carnage designs look pretty cool. And I'm always on board for seeing, Woody Harrelson, even though definitely parts of his performances fall flat. But I was bored for almost the entirety of the barely 90-minute runtime. As I mentioned, but Eric is making a good point. Maybe just add another half hour and tell a more interesting story. But then again, maybe there's not an interesting story to be told here. So the only reason I saw this was to see the mid-credit scene. And honestly, now I'm wishing I should have just checked out the spoilers on Twitter. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. I just did not enjoy this at all, but the mid-credit scene gets it a 5.
man, that is tough to hear. Here are my thoughts, guys. Not many people know this, but Venom is literally my favorite comic book character outside of Spider-Man. And, I love Spider-Man because he's funny, he's complex, and he's broken at times. But I love Venom for all the opposite reasons. I love him for his look. He's just badass. And I get it's all superficial stuff, but this movie kind of plays into that and then adds elements that nobody asked for. So we got some of the cool things we wanted out of Venom and Carnage and the way they looked and the fights, but then they added in all these other elements that they just continue to make the same mistakes about. They're treating this character as some sort of anti-hero when they should really go ahead and max out his potential as a villain. I can appreciate them putting Carnage in there, but Woody Harrelson's performance is not good. It's not good in any way, especially as him really needing to embody a serial killer. It was really goofy, and I didn't want to walk out of this movie feeling that way about the main villain. In fact, if you watch the first one, Riot was a more compelling villain because at least his character, the person who took over the symbiote, he at least had a purpose. Man, I really wanted this movie to be great, and it just wasn't. There's no characters other than Venom and Eddie Brock to root for, and it takes a few steps back from the first one. If I was to think about it now, Venom probably would have gotten a 7 out of 10. Venom Let There Be Carnage can't possibly get more than a 6 out of 10 for me. Though I will say it's worth to go and see the mid-credit scene if you're not going to find it or can't find it online anywhere before December. So, again, that's kind of my biggest thing. My biggest thing there is just go see it if you liked the first one. And if you haven't, like to Philin's question earlier, you're really not missing on much. But there are some things you're going to start to need to be aware of. So keep that in mind.
Well, there you have it. I mean, really, again, not too far off. I know you did definitely enjoy it more than I did. But yeah, again, it's just a character I feel like we still have not fully tapped into the potential of. I mean, it's an upgrade from Topher Grace, if that's worth anything to you. I don't know.
It is.
I feel like it's at least it's better than that. And yeah, the implications again are pretty massive. So with that being said, folks, thanks for joining us again. I think this is like our 5th or 6th live stream. I'm not sure what our next one will be, maybe Eternals or something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, there's the end of the year is going to be insane. I can't believe we're already in October. Of course, we say that each and every single year. But if you enjoyed this live stream, you'll definitely also enjoy the podcast, which can be found anywhere you listen to your shows. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, literally everywhere. If you do find yourself listening on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, social media, of course, at Wait For It Podcast, and on Twitter at Wait For It Pod. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this review, and a whole lot of content coming to you in the month of October and throughout the end of the year. So with that being said, Eric, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, and I will do a shout out for anybody that's here at the end. We do have an episode dropping in the middle of October covering Marvel's What If series on Disney+. In addition to some other things that came out here recently in September, so definitely be on the lookout. But that one specifically is one I would highly recommend you come back. It has, and I'm still catching up. With that being said, my name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host Phil the Filipino. And don't forget, we release new episodes for our podcast every Monday and Wednesday with the occasional monthly live stream on YouTube. And all you have to do is wait for it.
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.